had a few questions about registering teams. Maybe you can chime in on this. So
Um,
are you looking at chat or?
Me right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can be here.
Okay.
So the way our teams were registered was our faculty advisor buys all the registration keys, and then as like the coach, I distribute them. And this year I decided not to be a team captain because I had two veteran players who I felt like both deserved to like be team captains. And even though like it's my last season, I stepped down and I let them be team captains. And what we did is they won one preseason and one regular season. So we had them rock, paper, scissors for first pick. And then they went back and forth sort of like middle school gym style, and picked their teams. You know, this person picks, then this person picks, so that our teams were nice and balanced. We have like 1 to 2 really strong players per team, 2 to 3 like okay-ish players per team, and then we have one very new person per team, so that everybody who didn't do as well as they had hoped in the preseason and regular season can learn from the players who did pretty okay but want to learn more, who can also learn from the players who blew it away.
Okay. We do have a response here.
I can't chat at all this time because I'm literally in my car.
Well, that's okay. I'm going to type in the response here.
I will say it was a lot harder to make the team dynamic that I normally look for, because normally I do 7 to 8 person teams. I never went all the way up to the 10, but having to cut it down to 5 made it a lot harder because I usually put 2 to 3 strong people with 2 to 3 medium players, with 2 to 3 newbies, and it kind of like balances out that way. But having to be so selective to get like that balance with 5 was really hard.
Okay. Jim, in answer to your question, you're correct. A single individual must take charge for team registration and payment. Any student on the team can do this as well. It is the same pairing link for all. But also, as Caitlin mentioned, you can have someone purchase the game codes and then distribute them. Only one team member to pair with a coach.
And then because we have multiple teams, because we have more than 5 people, so we have multiple teams. I kind of act as the liaison between the faculty advisor and the team captain. So I'm the person that's like making sure that we have a practice space, separate practice spaces, which is hard, because we can't just use like our normal practice space that we've used all season. Now we have to be in 2 separate teams. And then we still meet a little bit together to talk about different strategies we're going to use as far as like team management. And it's hard because we put all of these people against each other for preseason and regular season. I'm going to use my friend Vicente as an example. He went to a Mets game during regular season and didn't do as well as he had hoped. I think he got 4th in pace, and normally he's been our 2nd place player behind me since, you know, the beginning of everything. So for him to get 4th, like we were teasing him hard because we're all friends, but at the same time, like now he's a little salty and he's got to kind of redirect and realize that like, okay, it's no longer about me and how I did. It's about like this big group of people that I have to be the leader, and I have to step up and make a plan and figure out how we're going to work together and who's the best at this that I can pair with somebody who's not so great at this so they can learn. Because the thing we stress at PACE about team is that team is not about how well you score. How well you rank in team means nothing as far as I'm concerned. For me, team is all about sharing everything you learned in the regular season with the rest of the group. So you're not allowed to do any challenge by yourself during team. No matter how good you are, you can be the best player on the team. You have to work with somebody and work through the challenge and make sure that whoever you're working with understands the challenge, and could explain it to someone else. And we have a system where if 2 people get the same answer, that's not enough. You have to have 3 separate individuals get the same answer before we submit the answer into the NCL portal. So it's really hard to go from teasing each other like, yo, I got this flag, let me know when you know, finally catch up, to, you know, oh, I'm struggling with this, and I know you're working on it too. How can we work together? What do you want to use? Do you want to use Hangouts? Do you want to use Slack? Do you want to use, so just that, like, the mentality shift is sometimes difficult, especially if you were playing preseason and regular season right and being competitive with your friends rather than sharing flags.
So it sounds like it's really a different mindset. When you're playing
Yeah,
as an
it's
individual,
totally different.
you're trying to make all the decisions yourself. But when you're playing as a team, you really do want the input from the team.
Yeah, and you want to make sure that everybody understands everything you're doing. Like, you can't always be perfect. Like, played on a 5-person team, but we usually have about 7 people on our teams, and usually 1 to 2 of those people won't show up like they're supposed to, but the 5 that are left will always all know how to solve every single challenge and how everyone got it, and not only how did they do it, but what thought process did they go to? What challenges did they run into along the way, and how did they overcome that? Because I think as a coach, I find that it's more important for them to know how to overcome challenges and you know, stumbling blocks than it is to know, you know, step by step how to do every little thing.
Good advice.
I agree. I think the consensus that you have to come up with, so you have to rely on your team lead to get that team going, and then agree on what is the process and the protocol here. And our teams use Slack for the most part because everybody's in different locations. They're not in the same room together, which kind of makes it a problem. Although some of the students have decided to go to one location now and try to meet if they're in the same area, which is good. And then you know, building that teamwork and then relying on usually there's a couple, as Caitlin said, there's a couple that have really done well, and they've been through this. We have students this is their 3rd, maybe 4th time playing, and so the other students are kind of relying on them to help provide guidance. Is this the right? Should we say, yeah, let's go ahead and enter this, or are we going to get the wrong answer and its points are going to go against us? So that all has to come back to the team lead as well, I think.
Yeah, and as somebody who's gone from, like, being on a team with no team lead to having to step up and be the team captain to having to step back and be the coach, figuring out that team lead dynamic is hard, because honestly, like, I'm pretty big about giving it to the highest performing player because I use it as an opportunity to teach leadership. I don't necessarily go for the person who is the best leader as your team captain, but more of the person who's the most knowledgeable, because it forces them not to be like, oh, I'm going to wait and do what I'm told. They know the most, so they should be delegating what they know everyone else can do to everyone else. And a big thing about the team leads is saying, like, okay, you tried this in regular season and you weren't very successful. I'm going to pair you with a person who is really successful in this subject, and you guys are going to start working on this while this group over here goes off to that. And that's why, like, I'm a little sad about the smaller team size, but we'll make it work. It's a new adjustment and dynamic. And, like, I was just trying to count. I think this is my 6th or 7th season playing, because I've been playing since I was a freshman. And every year they find, like, a new way to change it and make it, you know, there's surprises that we're not expecting, or they put something in a category that I've never seen before, so I don't know how to delegate it out. And a great example is how I got creamed in the regular season this season. I came in, like, 145th, which was, like, crap for me, because they did challenges that were so different from anything else I'd ever seen that I was learning on my feet, and I've done this for 6-7 seasons. So just knowing that those curveballs are going to come and figuring out as a team, how do you want to handle that? One of the strategies we use is we put all the categories and the question numbers into a spreadsheet, and we give everyone their own column where everyone can put in all of their own answers, and then we look for differences, and then we get the people who have different answers to come together and be like, my answer's right, okay, why? And then the team kind of picks what we're going to submit. But in that like battle of like who's the rightest, most right, whatever the grammar is for that, we see a lot of different like lines of thinking and how the problem can be analyzed in a lot of different ways.
Okay, we're getting some more input on the questions about registration and pairing codes. David, are you able to talk? Can you unmute? David Durkee is our NCL Ops manager, and I'm getting input from David. Caitlin, do you know about the pairing code that is used and if it's the same pairing code for regular and post?
That's a really good question. I haven't done registration yet.
You know, maybe you should just join the oh, I'm sorry, I'm on here.
Yeah, you're on now, David. Go ahead.
I was going to suggest maybe Franz should join in and explain
Yeah.
this. You know, that might be best.
That would be great.
Yeah, if you
Franz,
can bring Franz in for a few minutes, I think that'll help.
you have a few minutes, Franz, for this?
Does he need the Zoom info? I'll
That's
send
what got me so late was
I'm sending it.
Okay, thanks.
I didn't have the app on my phone.
How many teams will you have in postseason, Kate?
Ooh, so I talk to a lot of players for a lot of different teams. So officially Pace has 2 teams. BOCES doesn't have a team this season. I'm talking to a team from Virginia pretty consistently because I actually compete in other CTFs with a guy from Virginia. So I like assist him when I can with his team. And then, I don't know, I just felt like anybody who talks to me, like Franz and Toby made me my own like Ask Kate channel on the Slack for Cyber Skyline. But anybody who messages me on like Facebook, Twitter, like all of that jazz, like I'm willing to help anybody. So I have a bunch of like stray birds that I just collect all of them.
I'm pointing people to your coaches document now. Are you getting some feedback on that?
I haven't heard anything. I would love to. This is a very like first some last minute changes that I want to make better. We're getting there, but it will be continually improved. So stand by for versions 2 and up.
One thing I should
Our
mention.
students love it.
One thing I should mention to everyone, so you don't get confused on the deadline, you need to redeem the game code for the team season by 4/26 because the postseason game starts on 4/27. So everyone should make sure they redeem the code by 4/26.
As far as my coaching guide goes, I know like some of the feedback I've got is that like, oh, it doesn't tell you how to do anything. And I was like, it's not supposed to. So everything I write is never supposed to be a step-by-step guide. It's supposed to kind of be just like a crazy person's rambling, I guess, of sort of like what I was thinking or how I overcame challenges. In some cases, I've used similar challenges to coach, so I know areas that I might not have gotten stuck, but other people have. I know like there's an SQLite file that I love because I know all of the places that everyone's going to get stuck because they're like, oh, I don't know how to open this file. Why not? Because I don't know how to open that file type. Did you Google how to open this file type? And I'm like, oh, but I got to download something. Did you try that? And it's always funny because my suggestions when I'm coaching are usually not like, oh, go do this thing. I'll be like, okay, why are we stuck? I'm stuck on this. Okay, what do you have to do to get unstuck? And they'll answer themselves. And people don't realize how smart they are. And that's my favorite thing about NCL is that you know a million times more than you think you do. Just don't like give up on yourself.
It must be hard for someone playing for the first time, though, to understand that, you do have to get past the point of not having a clue what you're doing.
Y'all,
to
I
understand.
cried. I cried my first preseason. I thought I was so dumb. I thought I was dumb as a sack of bricks and I was never going to be successful in the field. I legit like went to my instructor ready to drop out of the program because I was like, I am too dumb. And he was like, well, what'd you get stuck on? Name one challenge you got stuck on. And I was like, I couldn't find the answers for open source. And he was like, did you Google it?
Yeah,
And I was like, it's not a test. No,
Yeah.
use every resource you have.
Franz is on now, so let's go ahead and bring Franz in. Franz, are you seeing the chat questions regarding pairing codes?
Yeah, I can see the chat.
Okay. Can you kind of walk us through how the pairing code works for postseason?
So the pairing code is the exact same as it has been for regular season. It doesn't change. And any students who've used your pairing code during regular season, they'll still show up during postseason. So it's not like you have to go through that process again.
So how does it work under the same like coach?
So the way it works is that as long as one player on the team is paired with the coach, they'll be able to see the entire team. So that also handles the case where you have a team from multiple different schools with different coaches. As long as the coach has paired with one of those team members, it all works out.
So is there a code or something that the different team captains will give out to the players on their team, or how do you segment the two teams as far as registration so that?
Yeah, that's a different code. So there's the pairing link, which is just for like an advisory situation. So the pairing link is what the coach has to give to the student so that they can see the student's performance. The way that works for regular season is the same as it does for postseason, and if you already set it up, it carries over. When you create a registration, you create a new team, you're going to get a certain number of game codes. These are the exact same game codes that you get during the regular season, and you distribute those out to your students, and when they redeem them, you can actually see there's a button, below the new registration button. There's actually more of a little link there called View Receipts. And when you click on that, it'll show you every single purchase that you've made, all of the game codes you got from those purchases, and who has redeemed them or if they're not redeemed yet. So you can actually track and make sure that everything's being redeemed and that you know who got what code, and helps you reduce some of that confusion.
So one of the questions is, I'm not seeing our existing team name in the registration form page. This implies a different pairing code, or am I somehow on the wrong page?
So if you've already made a registration, you need to click on the Expand Existing Team button, and then there will be a drop-down showing you all of the teams that you've registered already. And if you haven't hit the limit of 5, you can go in and you can purchase more codes for that team. If you have made a team purchase and they're not showing up there when you click expand existing team, it probably means that you're logged into to a different account, and you should contact us if you have some confusion there, and we can help get this sorted out.
So a couple of the other questions here. I have the same issue. It does not appear we can register a team because students pay individually.
Yeah, so I guess that they mean that their students pay individually. Yeah, unfortunately, we don't have a way for individual students to make their own purchase. This is how we've been doing postseason registration the entire, since we've been doing it. Basically, there's one person responsible for making the purchase. Now, that person doesn't have to be the coach. That person could be a team captain, for instance. Just as long as there's one person responsible, and that person's collecting the money from everyone else on the team, and then they can make the purchase, that's perfectly fine. But yeah, unfortunately, there isn't a way for individuals to pay for their own, $10 part of the registration.
So the best thing for them to do if they have any question is to go to info@ncl or to go to Cyber Skyline, and then we can help them out.
Franz and Toby are super helpful in the Cyber Skyline chat in Slack.
Yeah, Slack actually would be a good place to post these questions as well. So Stephen, Jim, is this helpful to you?
So that one question, so individuals do not get their game codes directly via email because we've noticed a lot of people will buy game codes and not be entirely sure who's going to be on the team yet. They just know that they want a team of 5. So the person who made the registration will get the game codes via email, and then they will be responsible for distribution.
And the deadline for redeeming the code is on 4/26?
Yes, 4/26 at 11:59 Eastern.
My favorite part of being in Eastern time is because NCL does most of their times in Eastern time.
So if students are online, what's the best advice to organize payment collection?
So I don't know if the best way, probably I guess the easiest way from a management perspective is, if you're okay with doing this, you could have like an account where you share the password on the account, and then anyone can log into that account and purchase their expansion of the team. So one person will initiate the process, select a new team registration, buy for 2 people, and then the other 3 people will be able to log in and expand the team by 1 each time until you hit that 5 limit. That's the only way I can think of to do it where everyone pays individually, but even still, because there's a minimum of 2, the first person will have to go and buy 2 at one shot. Other than that, there'll have to be some way that you guys collect payment on your end to aggregate it to one person, and then that person can make the purchase.
So Stephen, Kangas posted the question, I fear there have been players already registering and may have to deal with refunds or consolidation. So if you have questions like this, please let us know and we will work with you.
There's once you actually have registered, so I don't know how much of an issue that it would be for your students, because you have to do a minimum purchase of 2. So you can't go and register a solo team. And if you have made an accidental purchase and you want to transfer to a different team and consolidate, that is something that we can do. And there's a way to do it yourself as well. But yeah, if you want, you can contact us, contact@cyberskyline.com, and we'll be able to sort out any sort of transfers or any consolidation that you might need to do for your team.
So that individual person can actually register 4 teams or 5 teams and those individuals. Is that right, Franz?
Correct. But no one can register just as a solo. There's a minimum purchase of 2, so you can't have a team of just 1 person.
Any other suggestions on putting the team together? Is the coach the focal point then, or is the team captain the focal point? But there is going to be a focal point.
Yeah, there's going to be a focal point. Oh, I don't know who I was directed to.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, well, it could be either, because different organizations have different organizational structures. Who is taking the lead on this could be a student or it could be the coach. But that's up to the school.
Yeah,
I think as far as like the money part, I think that could be your faculty advisor. I think that's a great opportunity for them to help you. But as far as how your team is structured, how your team's going to work, who's going to work together, things like that, I think it's such an amazing opportunity for students to really like take on a leadership role that's not too intensive, but also gives them leadership experience that students need. Because in a lot of interviews, you're going to be asked, when have you served in a leadership role, and saying you were a team captain for a CTF, or even better, saying like, oh, well, I took the lead on this specific challenge. Like, there's so many opportunities for leadership in postseason. And for me, like I said, postseason is not about the rank. It's about how much everybody learns. It's not part of the regular season, because postseason is this really great wrap up to kind of like reinforce everything for everyone. Instead of making you guys be separate the whole time, this is your chance to come together and really like share what you're good at with everyone else, so that everyone else can get good at it too.
That's the way we basically have the the team lead take the lead, and the coaches are helped there as an advisor, but we turn it over to the team leads, which is the students. And we try to alternate that so that if you've been a team lead before, maybe let somebody else take that role. Also, some feedback I've had recently from one of my students was that when he interviewed for a job, they asked him how many competitions he had played in, and of course he could say that he was a team lead on a couple of those competitions as well as that. And they said, well, we wouldn't even consider anyone that hadn't played in a competition. So that was some good feedback.
I've gotten that feedback a lot too. They've said like, oh, if, when you talk to recruiters and you're like, oh, what can I do to improve my resume? And they're like, well, if you haven't competed in a CTF, then your resume doesn't even count. And I'm like, I got that in the bag.
That's right. I think that the skills that you're like in a team environment, a lot of the students that I know that have gone to our industry partners, they get into a team environment right away. So
Yeah.
having that team experience is really vital, I think, and that's what the NCL can provide.
So the questions about the postseason registration, if you send us an email, we will follow up. Just send us as much information as you can about what you're doing and contact information, and we'll make sure to follow up on it. But Franz just posted, the team is solely for players. Coaches get separate solo access to the content. The coach does not count toward the team size, nor is there a $10 fee for coaches.
And it's important that the coaches don't help with team. Like, this isn't about how much your teacher knows. This is about how much you guys know. It's really hard to, like, it doesn't matter. If it's just going to be the coaches competing, like, we should do that as an entirely separate bracket, because we're not testing how much our teachers know. Like, they've already got their certifications. That's why they're teaching. We're testing what we as a group know, how much, what different areas did we conquer throughout the season. So like, I've always worked with a guy who's really good at Wireshark, and I've gotten a lot better at Wireshark from working with him. But at the same time, like, I've worked with people who are really good at enumeration, and I still struggle in that section. So I know as soon as we get to team, like, these are the areas that I was weak at. I saw other players do better than me. I'm going to go talk to the players who did better than me and say, teach me what you know. And that's really should be the focus that players take away from teams. It's not really about, like, I know, like, I don't know if this is the right perspective, but I don't care what the score is at the end of postseason. I don't care where my team ranks. I don't care if the two pace teams, beat each other or don't beat each other, as long as within those two teams, everybody on each team knows everything that everyone else on that team knows. And then we're going to have a big recap after postseason where the two teams can come together and be like, oh, did you see this challenge? Did you guys get it? Yeah. Can your guys teach our guys, so that, by the end of it, we've all learned more than we could have ever learned in our classrooms. Like, one season covers more than we're ever going to get in a class.
I would agree. Like our capstone class, even though it's led by me as the instructor and I'm the coach for that group, in fact, they sometimes get frustrated. I say, well, this is your last class. What do you want me to teach you? You already know what's going on. So now what we're going to try to do is take what you've learned and try to apply that through the individual and the team competitions. So this is your chance to prove that you've learned something out of all the other courses that you've taken. And we give them the opportunity to go back and look at areas. That's where the gym and all this is really beneficial. They can try to assess, what do I need to work on to do well in the individual competition as well as in the working with the team?
I actually said something similar. Like right after regular season, I was pretty bummed out. Like I didn't make top 100. I kind of expected it. So I was like, sometimes things don't go as well as you hope in the NCL games, but on those days you pick yourself up, brush yourself off, and treat your scouting report like a roadmap. What did I struggle with that I can improve on next time? But first, take a break because you deserve it. So actually, our team doesn't have practice this week. We only met this week to pick teams. So it was just me as the coach and then our 2 team captains. That's the only people who met up this week. Everybody else is on a break, just to kind of like chill and reset. And then next week we start practice again to get ready for team. But realistically, like we take our scouting reports and, you know, write down what you didn't know from the season. What was the challenge like? What stumped you up? What couldn't you get past? And then talk to other players on the team. And if there was a challenge that no one got, okay, that's something for everyone to research. But if one person on your team got through something and everyone else didn't, that one person should use postseason as an opportunity to help build up the rest of the group.
Great. Just had a very good posting from Stephen Kangas. I did a capstone paper for my recent InfoSec degree that was about enhancing knowledge via CTFs. There's some significant literature published on the value add of CTF games to InfoSec education, and many employers now know this and look for it on resumes. So Caitlin and Stephen, I'm sure you would agree with that.
Yes, most definitely. As I mentioned, the industry partners that we have look at to see if students have that experience with Capture the Flag.
I'm actually speaking at a keynote panel this weekend in New York City. It's for a bunch of high school kids, and I'm representing both women in tech and as like the CTF expert on the panel. So we're trying to even pitch to high schoolers the importance of CTF.
There's actually one thing I want to mention here that Stephen kind of brings up with his confusion on what he's seeing on his dashboard. So when coaches registered for the regular season and they go to their dashboard, what they're seeing is their group. So the group is used for coaches to see the performance of any students in that group. It doesn't have anything to do with those students working together. It's only meant for you to see how the students perform. That's different than a team. So the team is limited to 5, and everyone on that team works together. They share the same performance. So if one member on the team answers a question, the rest of the members of the team will see that it's been answered, and it'll all count to a shared score. For what you see on your dashboard there, on the advisor dashboard, that's a group. You didn't pay extra for that. That's just for you to see the performance. Teams are, for a specific game. They're for the postseason. And you pay for the registration fee on those teams, and they're limited to 5 people in the postseason. And if you had members of that team who you see in your group in the regular season, you'll see them again during the postseason after they redeem their codes.
Right.
Another good point. Franz said that like once one person from a team submits an answer, everyone will see it. If one person goes in and trashes the team's accuracy, that counts for everyone too. So it's really important to have good communication among your teams and figure out whether you're going to use Hangouts or a Google spreadsheet or a Google Word doc or whatever you guys are going to use. You need to have your communication method down solid, because it's going to make a huge difference. A lot of time the postseason scores come down to accuracy. Because a lot of the teams have different experts in different things, so you're going to see a lot of similar scores on the leaderboard, and it's going to come down to that accuracy.
That's a good point. I think, and it kind of also, some teams work different. Usually, I know that one of our teams, they only want one person, and that's the team lead to do all the entries.
That's
So,
what we do.
so it's you need to make sure that you agree to all that ahead of time, and then also this idea, and you mentioned, Caitlin, that it takes three people to say we have to have a consensus or a majority rules or some kind of a process for answering and agreeing to go ahead and enter that information in.
And we stress that so much because if only one person knows how to solve the problem at the end of it, you're doing team wrong. Like team is about, so even if you're the only person who knows the answer, tell everyone else how you got that answer. And if they're like, this logic makes sense, then try it. If they're like, you might be crazy. Well, you might be crazy and you might mess up the accuracy. So like work through it as a group. We're so strict on the team captain being the only one to enter the correct answers that like we've thrown food at people who did it without permission in practice. Last season, I think we threw pepperoni at someone. Like a piece of pepperoni just flew across the room.
That'll be hard with online students.
Yeah, you have to have virtual pepperoni.
Well, the school ordered us pizza because they were so kind and wonderful, and then it got used as a weapon. Don't submit answers without your captain, guys. And that's the point of a captain, really, is to be that leader that says, like, all right, I see that one person has this answer. How can we all come to the same answer or come up with a better answer? Or, and it's so important that the team lead is, like, positive and, like, inspiring and cheerful. And I'm so excited it's not me this season.
Do you all do anything as far as recognition for the teams and for the individuals at your school? We do some of that, but I'm just curious if you do anything like that, Caitlin.
I'm a professional at ridiculous awards. So like last year we gave someone best hair, and it was a dude who like really styled his hair. We'll be like Wireshark Master or like Crypto Jedi or like most improved or like never gives up or just kind of like ridiculous awards just to like acknowledge everyone what we saw as like their super strength, whether it was like best hair because this guy like bragged about his hair, or we have a guy on our team that like his gamer tag is like that swimmer boy or something. So like we might give him the award that like cracks passwords best while underwater. So we just kind of do like a ridiculous awards thing as sort of like everyone's going to get an award. And we can also just like recognize, like we build really great friendships on this team. And I think that's my favorite part of competing, at least at Pace, because it's a smaller team compared to when I was at Westchester. The teams were so big you couldn't get close. But at Pace, it's only like 8 to 10 of us. So it's always a very close-knit group, and we get to tease each other and make fun of each other. And, it's kind of like a real like locker room talk as much as I can imagine, like a football locker room. Like there's definitely some poking, some prodding, but it's all done with like a big heart and open arms. And
I think that's great. Those crazy awards that you mentioned made me think about when I worked on the Apollo project in Mission Control. They used to give these crazy awards. So I used to write programs, and I did this thing called the dumper format, where we could take the data and dump it and look at to evaluate communication errors. And so I got the dumper format award at NASA one year. For that, but those, yeah. So that's have fun and it's
specific skill.
Yeah.
Like if they were really good at the web application exploit and they found the pirate cow or the moose that definitely looks like it has testicles that was in the regular season, that was so alarming. Like I might receive like the professional moose hunter award or something because I was so upset about like. I thought it was moose testicles. Like it was a weird little like ASCII art and I didn't know what it was. And apparently it was supposed to be the cow udders. They just made it look like a moose. But hey, like it was something that I like got like surprised about. And it was really funny And then like when it comes to awards, like that might be what people remember. And it's something silly and like I messed up. And that's how I got Crypto Kate as a nickname. Like at the end of one season, like they were like, and the crypto award goes to Crypto Kate. And I was like, oh, that's cute. I'm going to keep that. And here we are 3 years later. I still go by Crypto Kate because of ridiculous awards.
I love
And it's
it.
more fun if they're ridiculous.
Sure, I agree. I still have my dumper format award. It was all done by hand. Back then, they didn't have computer graphics.
I think one year I gave out a Ragiest Rage Quitter award because somebody like would storm away from the problem and come back. But like they would storm away so much, they got Ragiest Rage Quitter. And it's just like, it's all just fun and games. And it's not really about like, it's not really about what you do. It's more about like just building that camaraderie because you want people to come back. Like the biggest thing is if you get people in their freshman or sophomore year, well, we have a 4-year program, but you know, if you get them that first time and you get them to come back, they can compete, you know, like 4 times in 2 years. And, you know, by the time you're competing in your 3rd and 4th NCL, like you're pretty good at it and you have a lot to offer the people who are on their 1st or 2nd. And even if you're only on your 2nd, both of my team captains this season are only on their 2nd NCL, and they have a lot to offer for everybody on their 1st.
Kate, we have a good question from Stephen Kangas. I know based on your recent experience at WISES, you'll have some good answers here. What advice do you have for Stephen to recruit and engage more girls into their cyber club?
So I recently found out about this new thing where there's actually ways that you can phrase questions in advertising that are both inclusive and exclusive to women. So like, trying to think of a good example. Okay, I'm gonna use NCL just because I know I sent Dan this email. Like there was a email that went out on the newsletter and it had like this girl like going, oopsie, I forgot to register. And I was like, wow, that made like girls look like so dumb. It wasn't just like, oops, I forgot. Like it kind of gave off like the, oh, it's dumb. So being very careful of stuff like that, like when you're trying to market to women, know what you're also saying when you use women as your representation. Another thing is to just like make sure that it's not like the guys treat the girls right when they come in. I know like a lot of times I feel like I'm part of like the boys club and it's like raw sports and it's like, it's a little much sometimes. So making sure that the guys like are inclusive to the girls without like treating them like frat brothers. But I think sometimes like guys at this age don't really know how to interact with girls. They're just really awkward. And like that awkwardness translates into the clubs. And it's hard to, like a lot of times the girls are off in the corner somewhere. So having like girl mentors, like having girl faculty involved is so huge. That's why I'm going to the panel this Saturday, because they literally contacted me and they were like, every woman we tried to contact, it fell through. It was like, we really need these girls to see more women. So if you can get female faculty involved, I'm trying to think, there's like so many things, and I wish I was more of an expert on this because it's something that I really care about. It's something that I'm trying to do.
His follow-up question is, what makes it seem like a boys club? And I've seen this over and over again in our clubs. The guys kind of like to do the guy thing, and it just feels like if you're not one of them, you are different, and you are.
I think the biggest thing is when boys talk about their home computers, like they're literally measuring their junk. Like that happens so much. And like sometimes I want to be like, dude, mine's bigger than yours. Shut up. And I'm referring to the computer, but like it's so extra sometimes. And I get that like this is our field and this is our passion and this is what we're talking about. But like there's ways to talk about it that's not like a junk measuring contest. And I think like people have a hard time with that.
I can go to a club meeting and I can see whether people belong there, the way that they interact with each other. And I think awareness is kind of huge for understanding boys are dumb. I mean, from my perspective, they do things without thinking, and there needs to be more of an awareness of what they're doing.
And if you ever hear the frat boy laugh, I like to call it, something's going wrong. It's when dudes laugh like, something's going wrong. I don't care what's happening. If that laugh exists, something's wrong. Because that laugh only comes out after boys at this age have said something so dumb, and like their brains just don't work sometimes, and they say things. But that laugh, that's a #1 sign of danger.
The Beavis and Butthead.
Yes, that's what it is. And I don't know what to call it. We've called it the frat boy laugh because we literally call this one guy out because he'll say something like really horrible and inappropriate and make everyone uncomfortable, and then he frat boy laughs.
Yeah. The role models are huge. I mean, for me, the more than guys see successful women in cyber, the better influence it'll be on them. Because
I mean, also guys about advocacy. Like, a friend of mine was in a meeting the other day, and they called in like 40 different people, and he didn't see any women in the room. And he's like, I know there's women in these departments. What happened? They're like, oh, we picked our best people to troubleshoot this issue. Did you, or did you pick all your friends? So, you know, my friend had to like stand up and say like, this isn't the best, like, we're here to troubleshoot this major issue. You've got to call in multiple departments, and you didn't bring in anybody who thinks differently than you. You didn't bring in anybody different. You brought in you, and 35 more of you. And teaching guys about advocacy and about being an ally is also important. But I think like college boys don't necessarily care about that as much as they could. And I think it's an age group problem too. Like, it's a little hard for people at that age to understand the importance of like starting at the bottom and at like high school and college level, because if they don't get the education, how are they going to get the career? And if they don't get the career, how are we going to fix the issue? Like, they don't think about that. They think about like what's happening right now.
And I think one of the coolest things we can do is really reach them as soon as they hit middle school. And we do Cyber Tech Girls, which is an all girls event, but we don't do it to have it be exclusive. We do it to nurture women. And so when, you know, they start working with boys in competitions, they've developed some confidence, you know, and an ability to deal with what boys do.
And I mean, if nothing else, like, I don't think it's the best solution, but I think it's a start. You could have like an all girls team. Like, the team sizes are small enough now. If you can get 2 girls, you know, you can put 2 girls up against everybody else and watch the girls kick butt, and really encourage them and let them know you expect, you know, great things from them, because they can. They've already, you know, I don't know. I think it's a complicated issue, and I think we could try to oversimplify it to like a lot of things, but I think it's just about like continued perseverance and things like that. I think there's no local people. That's where you start reaching out and trying to find them female mentors in the field. A big change for me happened, not the most recent YSIS, but YSIS 2017, when I met my mentor. Her name's Jenny Tam. She works with Cisco in Texas, and like, we don't live in the same state, but every time I've had a question or a problem, or I just was angry about something that I overheard in like the cybersecurity club, or a boy said a dumb thing at a tech meetup, I had somebody to turn to talk to with questions. And when I had a question about like, I want to get my CompTIA Security Plus, but I don't really want to take A Plus because I'm not really interested in that. And I'm better at Security Plus than Network Plus, but everyone says I should do Network first. What should I do? And just having those people to troubleshoot like your career issues with makes it feel like you're not alone. So having people that you can like help connect them with, if you can't have someone right there, have people you can get to.
Yeah, and the fact is, the more I'm able to network, the more I find these role models. So Stephen just said getting a female role model contact even at a distance is worthwhile. We can connect you to these role models.
Yes.
I think it's so important. You know, when we're doing Cyber Tech Girls here in Las Vegas at College of Southern Nevada, we have no problem getting the volunteers because we're willing to reach out. And I think that's part of just knowing that you can reach out and connect as opposed to just settling for what you have.
In our high school at Mescalera on the Apache reservation, the majority of our cyber students are females, so they kind of run the show there, and so it's been interesting, and they've actually done very well. They not go into cyber all the time. We just had one of our students last year get a scholarship to Duke and is working on nanotechnology, but just that idea that they really have, we have role models there that I know a couple of the role models that I had were actually Kay Walls, who I worked with at NASA. She was the manager there. And then Millie Bradley, who was the comptroller for Exxon Mobil. So these are people that can really give you a different insight, and I think what you get from some of the women that you don't get out of the men is that they think about the people more than the technical and all the job stuff. I think they're willing to listen, and that's the thing I got from Millie. She taught me a lot in my management role. So, and it's kind of, you might not think of a woman being the role model for a male, but she was for me at Exxon.
And if there's no like women faculty at your school, that's something to bring up. That's part of being like an ally or an advocate. Like, how are you expected to attract women to the program if you don't have any women? One of my favorite things about PACE is that like almost all of my professors that I had and my advisors and my mentors were all women. And it was so great to have so many women in tech that I could turn to. You know, I went to the Women in Cybersecurity conference, and like so many of my teachers came, and I got to like see them there, and like teachers supported me, like teachers and the assistant dean, like they all supported me. And when I wanted to build this conference, and they were all there at my workshop, and like that's such a cool feeling to like be a part of a group of women in tech when like it's really hard to find. So not having anyone, I think, is very discouraging. And that's something that's not within your control necessarily, but it's something you should bring up to higher management who do have control of these things. And like, hey, if you want to build this program, you need representation, and not just women, but like, you know, any minority needs to be represented, or people are going to pick other colleges where they are represented.
Great discussion today. Well, we're at the end of the hour. I want to thank everyone for being on the coaches call today. And if you have any questions about postseason, reach out to us. We really are excited about NCL, and we're looking forward to having a great postseason competition. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.